Hello everyone, I'm Chris Mazzillo, second son, and today I'm going to be doing a video game review of Bravely Second End Layer. Out on the 3DS, it's a sequel to the very widely well-received 3DS game RPG, Bravely Default, which, you know, a lot of people thought brought back turn-based RPGs and showed that they can actually be fun. Or at least, you know, people like to think that that was that, but they still say turn-based RPGs don't work, despite also saying that Bravely Default was really good. Sadly, Bravely Default suffered from, well, a rather lackluster ending, or at least ending segment, in which it just kind of repeated itself about a million times until the game was no longer fun. But while Bravely Default was more of a commentary on the original Final Fantasy game, like 1 through 5, as you just go out and search for crystals because you've gotta save the crystals, Bravely Second End Layer actually is more like a newer JRPG, how it's got a full story with actual purpose to it other than save the crystals. Bravely Second takes place in the exact same worlds and setting as Bravely Default. In fact, it follows on from the true ending 2 years later, in which we now have JRPGs, who is just an aspiring young knight and part of the Crystal Guard who protects Pope Agnes. And, well, sadly it starts with Agnes being kidnapped and literally everyone being destroyed and fucking wrecked by this new evil man, whose name I can only remember as a spoiler. The Kaiser of Oblivion? Kaiser Oblivion? It's a very forced name, but he's part of a new country that has seemingly cropped up out of nowhere in this massive flying ship, who seemingly are hell-bent on maybe destroying the world, or maybe even just, you know, recreating things. So it's up to JRPGs and his friends to try and stop from putting end to the Kaiser's plans. And he's eventually joined by Edgar Lee, who obviously everyone remembers from the first game, as well as recurrent Tiz Aurea, who's now less of a boring sap and more of a apparent badass, because, you know, why not? As well as Magnolia, who is a lady from the moon, whose job is Ballbuster.
It's huge! Time to bust some balls!
Ballbuster from the moon. Basically, there are evil monsters that live in space that the people of the moon stop, and these monsters are called balls. B-A-A-L, ball. And if you fight them, you're a ballbuster.
Time to bust some balls!
Ballbuster. But anyway, Magnolia's crash landed on Earth because the moon got destroyed by a massive ball she failed to bust, and, you know, so she joins in you because, conveniently, it's believed that the massive ball is actually part of the Kaiser Oblivion ship. Generally speaking, I much preferred the second game, this game, to the first one. The first one was an alright ground basis of an RPG, as you've just kind of got some good mechanics, but overall the story, while good at parts at times, just kind of lacked in other times, especially towards the end. While in this game, it's roughly the same length, at least in terms of gameplay, but there was never a point where I was like, oh, when's this going to end? As I was just I suddenly realized, I was suddenly at the end, which crept up on me because I was so engrossed in the story. You go from continent to continent, country to country, as you see all these places that you've been previously in your last adventure, and how they are coping with the Crystal Orthodoxy and the Anti-Crystalists kind of joining forces to create a better tomorrow. And for the most part, it's good. Mostly. You also get to visit new cities and new areas that seemingly didn't exist when you first visited them. There's these continents, but I mean, I guess there is actually more to the world than 5 cities. There are a lot of jobs that reoccur from the previous game. In fact, nearly every single job from the first game is now back in the second game, as well as a load of other jobs. But the jobs from the previous games are now given to you in the side quests, which often revolve around a choice. And some of these choices can be really, really good. Because there's one, like the first two that I can remember, was one in which you have to either choose between like harnessing the power of this crystal, which could create a whole new energy system that could either stop war altogether, or maybe create a whole new light type of war, like nuclear weaponry, or continue using it to create water for an entire continent. And it's like actually quite difficult like decisions to make, because neither seem like a wrong answer, sort of, or another in which you just got to try and like either let someone continue on in his passion of learning summoning magic, or maybe just to convince him to just not give up on something he started, which was like learning the way of a swordman, swordsmaster, or whatever. And it seems like a lot of the time it's all sort of weighing up against the cons and the pros of each decision, and ultimately it falling upon you to choose which one is better. There's no right answer, or a lot of the time it just kind of falls upon which you think is the job you want, and then sadly having to disagree with them, despite sometimes, you know, you really thinking that a boy and girl school is better than an all-girls school. But you know, gotta get that Valkyrie job. The game keeps on with its self-referential humour, as in some of these choices which are slightly more arbitrary and mundane, like the detective story or whatever, the characters kind of just know, almost instinctively, that there's going to be someone and then like two asterisk holders weirdly having disagreements. And it's quite entertaining when like you get late towards the game and like Eddie is just like, come on, who is it this time? Let's go, come on now. You know, it's quite fun, and there's a lot of humour involved. However, the new jobs that they bring are almost the best part of this. The new way in which magic is done through this, like the spell crafting, is incredible. Every single spell in the game, even summons, you can like alter how they work, whether they, you know, through having it as a dart, which means it attacks first, or as a range, so it does like 5 random targets. It's incredible, and like it completely changes how magic works. As in the previous games, sadly, magic just didn't stand out enough, as it felt quite weak. However, here the magic is properly like a force to be reckoned with, and I had a permanent mage in my party the entire time. You also have like a cake person, that's right, like a patisserie is an actual class now, who is kind of like the salve maker from the first game, but cake orientated, as well as like one character class which weirdly stands out the most, I wonder why, is the cat mage, catmancer. It's a use cats, and basically it's the blue mage, but with cats. As you see, you use like cat items to cast cat spells. They're really cool, actually. As well as like a whole host of others, like the fencer, who's a more interesting type of a warrior, or the chariot, who's like, you can have equipped with 4 weapons but no defense, as they're an all-out like tank, well, barrage of like, attacks. Not to mention that all the designs of these like jobs and classes still remain to be really, really cool. And a lot of the characters who own these jobs and classes have like an actual story reason for siding with the bad guys. In the first game, sadly, it was just like, well, it's the country I'm allied to, so yeah, why not? But here, in this one, there's a whole reason that this person wants to destroy the world, and also, not to mention, like, all these people have flocked together and supporting this man, because it turns out they've all had rather tragic backstories, which are actually really quite sad and interesting. And as you watch these characters develop and resolve these issues, it felt good. It felt really good. The game stuck with me so much that, like, the characters were interesting, and the sacrifices of other characters just really kind of stuck with me. And it kind of, like, the final boss was incredible, and like actually had me like on the edge of my seat the entire way through. And in fact, that entire last arc kind of put a lot of like perspective, like explains a lot of the world, such as why the summons are as they are, and if you actually think about it, it kind of makes sense. And just adding to this whole like alternate reality thing, and like what you have to do to even kind of get to some stages is incredible. Like, essentially you have to start your game again, and that was madness. Although not entirely clear as to what you have to do afterwards, but, you know, each to his own. You got to revisit all these characters in a world that just doesn't quite feel right for some glaring issue, like something's missing. And you just kind of have to continue on knowing that something is wrong here and trying to work out what that is. And honestly, Bravely Second's like a really, really good sequel that I personally feel is better than the first one. I just do. Large parts of the game have been refined throughout, as instead of the moon base being an easy way to get some of the best items in the game, well, now it's just a way of making your like special moves, which they've also like streamlined a lot, so you don't have to change it for every single weapon, but instead you just change it for offensive and support and all that sort of stuff. And you know, they've got like a little side thing, Chomp Craft, where some weird evil thing just starts yelling chomp at you and it's fucking weird. But it's a good way of making money maybe eventually later in the game. And you know, just everything in this game was like so beautiful. Like all the world, like remember how in the first game all the city maps were like really nice looking? In this one, fuck, even the dungeons look really nice a lot of the time. And the city maps look even better. It looks so nice. And it's just good. It's really good. It's a game where there are layers upon layers to the story, and with each layer being like resolved, seemingly more come to light and the story gets deeper and deeper. And even like the story begins to open up with hints of like there being something much, much larger than Luxembourg itself, as you know, as you get characters talking about some like interdimensional like police force sort of thing. So maybe there'll even be a Bravely Third. Hopefully they release it several months ahead in Europe again, because fuck you all Americans. Finished the game about a month and a half ago. Sucks for you. Hi, and thanks for watching my video. I know it's weirdly rambly and didn't actually make much sense, but I just really actually quite liked the game. If you have any views or opinions on my video or the game itself, why don't you leave it down in the comment section below, or message me in any other way possible. Like a brick through my window. Don't actually do that. And if you want to see more of my ramblings and more thoughts in this post, you can always check out my website, which is the Tumblr link you see, and there'll even be a link in the description below. Anyway, thank you and goodbye. New characters being Tiz, 2 years later, in which the Crystal Orthodoxy and the Anti-Crystalists have sort of separate their ways to...
Time to bust some balls!